My name is Star Zahra. I'm a poet, author, and textile artist. I like to say I tie dye my way through life. I don't know what is coming, but I trust that it's going to be fine. About tie dye and my journey into it, nothing was planned. I didn't even know what tie dye was until I met it, and that's in 2020 when I visited the Nika Research Center for Arts and Culture. Immediately I saw the batik, the tie dye. I just knew it was for me. I just knew it. I turned to my friend and I said, I'm going to be good at this, and I'm doing it. And I stayed and studied for 2 years. I do both batik and tie dye, but I specifically chose tie dye. Some things influenced my choice, and the first one would be that it is northern. Tie dye is particularly northern Nigeria. The Southerners are more into the batik. It's their thing. It's been with them for years. From the Adire Leko drawing with cassava paste on the fabric, leaving it out in the sun to dry for hours before it is done. So it's been their thing. They've used it to tell stories, messages. It's particular to them. But when it comes to tie dye, it's particular to northern Nigeria. And when I started to run into these newspaper articles and TV interviews that said the art is dying in northern Nigeria, it just like broke my heart that every article I read thought it was dying and there was no hope basically. I wanted to choose what to specialize in, and it was tie-dye. It made me feel like a part of northern Nigeria because I am doing something to promote this region, and it's absolutely important to me. The thing with tie-dye is it seemed quite simple. A lot of people might just, okay, you just carry the rope, you tie it, and you dip it in dyes. That should be very simple, but it's not. First, there are different types or different techniques to it. So you can do tie dye, which means you tie the cloth before you dye, or you can fold and then dye. The interesting thing about fold and dye is that you don't have the motif in your head. With tie dye, I can have a motif. Oh, I want a circle here. I don't know exactly how the circle will come out, but there's a motif. It's going to be a circle. But with fold and dye, you just don't know. Then there's the crumble and dye. So with crumble and dye, you wet the cloth, spread it on the floor, and just go all over it. If I'm going to explain to you simple tie and dye, you get your fabric, you get your ropes, you tie whatever pattern you want or the motifs you have in mind. Then you get to the dyeing part of things. So you get your dyes, you mix them together, you put the chemicals together, you add your dyes, you make sure you're wearing your gloves, and you make sure there are no lumps, because if there are lumps, then it stains the fabric. And then you dip in. If you're going with one full color, you dip the whole fabric in. If you're going to do multiple colors, then you go in with the side you want the color in, and then you do all the dyes. Or sometimes you dye everything in a lighter color and then you had a more darker color over it. It's important to have a certain basic training of tie dye before you attempt it, so you're very careful with the chemicals and you know what you're doing. One of my most interesting projects, and the uh, one that has really great sentiment for me, would be this. So this is tie dye on canvas, and I believe I'm the first person to have tie dye on canvas exhibited like this. There's been batik on canvas, a lot of batik on canvas. Mama Nike Okundai does a lot of batiks on canvas, and a lot of other artists have followed suit and done batik on canvas. But I felt that it was very important at some point that tie dye is also represented in that way, as abstract as it can be. With batik, you can have figurative art in it. You can draw a bowl, you can draw women. So it's limitless what you can do with batik. It's basically like paint on canvas. So it's amazing. But it's also amazing what tie dye represents. It represents an ambiguity that is exciting, that opens the mind to thought, to allow you think and you know Just come up with your own perspective about this thing that is in front of you. Even for me as the artist, there are some tie-dye pieces I cannot recreate. And no tie-dye piece is exactly the same at all. Even if I make a design today and I remake it tomorrow, it's still going to have differences. It can't be the same. But then there are those designs that I intentionally refuse to know how to remake. And there are those that I simply cannot remember how to go about it or how to remake it. So there's this thing. That's the thing about tie dye for me. That uniqueness. It's like everybody in this world. We have women, we have men, but we're not the same. Even two identical twins are not the same, and that's what tie dye represents for me. And another thing is with tie dye, you never quite know what is coming. It has been the most exciting thing. I tell some of my friends that I'm tie dyeing my way through life, and that's because I don't know what to expect out of life. I can make decisions as best as I can. I can ask for advice. I can prepare, but I really do not know what is coming my way, and that's how tie dye works.